I don't know.
I write podcasts. Yeah.
Now, Wai-Yii has been practicing these Daoist arts for over 20 years. You wouldn't believe it to look at her. To look at her, over 18. She's the author of a best-selling book called Way Out, A Daoist Path to a Fearless Life. Her classes are based in Leeds in the UK, and she travels and teaches courses in America, France, Germany, Tenerife and China. And she also has an online video course for beginners on Udemy, where she has 165 students in 28 countries around the world. Wow, that must keep you pretty busy.
Yeah, I am pretty busy with all of that.
Okay, so we've got plenty of questions to get through today that will hopefully give people a better idea of what the Daoist arts are. But I'm curious to learn, how did you get into this first of all? How did it start?
I started doing Lishi when I was first at university, and a friend took me along to a class. I was looking to do some sort of exercise, Tai Chi, meditation sort of thing, but I wasn't quite sure what I was looking for. So they recommended I come along to the class. They were doing it at the time, and I just loved it. From the first class, something just resonated with me, and I've been doing it ever since. When you first come to the class, often you just want to feel good at the end of the class. You want to feel relaxed. People often come to the classes that I do. They're feeling stressed, a little bit anxious, and they just want something to some sort of exercise that might not be your conventional sort of team sport, like, football or kind of, I don't know, gym kind of exercise. So something that's a little bit more holistic in terms of you're exercising your body, but there's a mental, kind of emotional well-being element to it as well. If you're wanting some sort of exercise that is not really conventional, that requires a little bit of self-reflection, there's a bit of curiosity about spiritual things or the East, but also works with more than just your muscular system. We have exercises that work with your breath and with your energy. There's self-defense applications, but there's also partner exercises. There's exercises that you do by yourself. So there's a broad scope of exercises, not just for your body, but for your mind as well.
Cool. I was looking through your YouTube channel before, when I knew that we were going to be having this interview. And I saw there's some videos on there of a Chinese dude, and he's chatting away, and then you're translating what he's saying. So that's amazing to see, that ability to speak and understand Chinese and put it into terms that possibly we can understand, that maybe isn't as accessible for people.
Yeah, I mean, this was one thing that I loved about my master, my teacher. When I first came to him, he made these sort of lofty, airy-fairy notions in Daoism very, very accessible, very practical. And I mean, I am lucky because I studied Chinese at university, but I come from a Chinese background, and so I'm able to sort of bridge maybe that gap between sort of the East and the West, and through the practice of Lishi, I'm able to translate some of the concepts from the Chinese to English, but also through the understanding of Daoism in practical terms.
Cool. So we're very fortunate to have that kind of package and that ability to access this through a native speaker.
Yeah, but it's not just me. I'm not the kind of the the bridge and the route to it. We're very, very, very fortunate to have such a system and access to such a system in Leeds or in the UK.
I know that people that look at these kind of arts, martial arts or other kind of arts, they're often very interested in the history, in the lineage, in the kind of the teachers that, how did this knowledge come to be in Leeds? So
of all places.
Of all places, yeah. So can you talk a bit about that?
Well, these arts obviously originated in China, and they originated from the Shandong region of China, which is a seat of Daoist practice in China. The last surviving member of the Li family came over to England. It was a time of political turmoil and chaos in China, so many traditional arts were lost at that time. You might have heard of like the Cultural Revolution. There was lots of famine and civil war. So the last surviving member of the Li family came to England, and he met with Chi Su, who was a half Chinese, half English orphan, and he began teaching classes and teaching Chi Su, and that was the seed of how it started in the UK. Chi Su was an amazing man who spread Lishi arts throughout Europe, not just in the UK, and just before his death, he handed on the presidency of the IDS to my master, Desmond Murray.
The IDS?
The International Daoist Society. So it's the organisation that's been running since the 1950s that promotes Daoism in the UK.
So the International Daoist Society is like a global organisation. Is it not just in the UK?
It's a global organisation, and it's and so we have classes and teachers of Lishi in all over the world. So in France, in Germany, Holland, in America.
How comes I've never heard of this stuff before?
Because until very, very recently, it was the family system. So in terms of family system, it was only a system that was passed on within the Li family. And by luck or by Dao or by fortuitous events, it arrived on the shores of the UK, and then it's been spread now, and it's open to anyone who would like to learn it.
So obviously you mentioned China, you've mentioned Daoism, Daoist Arts. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of this. You know, what exactly is Lishi, and what are the Daoist Arts?
So Lishi is a system that incorporates many arts. So we have something called Daoist breathing, and we have Tai Chi, and we have Qigong, and meditation, and self-defense. We have something called Changming, which is lifestyle or dietary therapy. We also have healing arts, which include the massage as well. So there's many arts that's about leading a healthier, more energized lifestyle.
Sounds great. You know, I've got some questions that people have asked me. I've told them I'm interviewing you today, and one of the questions that people have asked is about Qigong and Tai Chi, and they're asking, are these the same thing? Are they different? What's the difference between them?
Okay, so Qigong is a Chinese terminology. Qi means energy, so your body's intrinsic energy, and Gong means to do work. So it's essentially a set of exercises that allows you to strengthen your body's energy. Tai Chi, or Tai Chi Chuan, it's the same thing, is primarily a modality of moving that is slow, that you might have seen on TV, where it's very graceful and slow movements, and then you that you might have Qigong within Tai Chi, but that's not, that depends on your teacher basically. You can also do Tai Chi purely in a biomechanical way, and the focus is on that, the body movements rather than the energy work in it.
Okay. So Qigong, what you're saying, that means energy work, and that can be a practice on its own.
Absolutely.
And then Tai Chi is moving the body, and that could just be the movements of Tai Chi, but with you and with your teacher, there's Qigong within the Tai Chi that you do.
Yeah, that's it's more of a difficult, more of a more, you could say, advanced way of doing it. But really, you have standing Qigongs, sitting Qigong exercises where you don't necessarily move, but then you have sets of Qigong exercises where you move as well. So you're focusing on various things, which is why it's a little bit more complicated.
Okay, so Tai Chi can be one of those kind of moving Qigong exercises.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
And you said there about sitting Qigong, and that conjures up in my mind the kind of idea of someone sat there meditating.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the same thing? Is it?
So there are crossovers. Qigong is primarily about strengthening and building your body's energy. So that there are a set of exercises that were designed to strengthen your body physically and relax your body, the muscles, the tendons, and ligaments, but also at the same time you focus on your breathing to allow the smooth flow of qi around your body. And with the practice of Qigong over time, you open up the sort of gateways in your body that allow the energy channels to move unhindered, basically. So your energy around your body moves smoother and flows stronger. So you become healthier. If there's sort of blockages in your body, sometimes that can manifest as pain. So if all the channels are open in your body, then you become much healthier, mentally, emotionally healthier, not just in your physical.
Okay. And so I'm just thinking. So I know that when people meditate, sometimes they concentrate on a candle, or maybe they have a phrase that they say over and over in their mind. And I'm guessing from what you're saying that the focus is slightly different.
Yeah, the focus then is slightly different. When let's say if you're doing sitting Qigong, there's a focus on concentrating and sharpening your concentration, but it might be on your breath rather than actual visualization or like a guided meditation to focus your mental energy. So you're focusing basically on being relaxed.
I understand this, stuff exists, and why would someone bother practicing Qigong?
Well, in the West, we're kind of concerned with how you look and you do exercise to stay fit, and it's mainly about your muscles. In China and in the East, the concept of energy is much more intrinsic to the way that you exercise, and you have to have a balance between having a strong physical exterior as well as a strong internal, because over time, as you get older, and we're talking a couple of decades, then your physical body starts to, the strength in your physical body will start to deteriorate, and then if you've done the work on keeping your energy strong and youthful, then you will go into your old age with much more vitality and health.
Okay, so it's kind of like an insurance policy.
Yeah, it's an insurance policy, but you're going to have to start it young. I was saying this in my class the other night, actually, and so I have a lot of young people that come to class, and when you're young, you don't really think about what's going to happen sort of decades down the line, because you've got plenty of energy and you know, you're not really thinking that far ahead. But when you hit that age and you haven't looked after yourself, then what I'm saying is that there's less energy in that bucket for you to do stuff in your life with. So when you've got plenty of it, you need to try and preserve it. You need to build more of it if you can, so that you've got more of that battery to play with throughout your life.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds worth doing. And so, but you know, if I'm a young person and I'm thinking ahead to the future, and it's not maybe that relevant to me right now,
Yeah.
You know, why is doing this stuff, you know, good for me now? Why would I do it?
Well, it's good for you now. If I think back to me and the reasons I stayed with doing the arts, is because it gives me a feeling of being alive and energized but relaxed that I couldn't get from anything else. That's totally natural, and if it just gives you more energy in your life to able to focus and direct your life wherever you want it to go. It helps with motivating you, disciplining you, connecting you to kind of who you really are and what drives you, what motivates you, what makes you happy.
So what does it feel like when you're actually doing Qigong or these Daoist arts that you're talking about?
What does it feel like? Well, it feels absolutely gorgeous. It's a beautiful feeling when you're doing it. It can be very, very calming, relaxation at the deepest level, but at the same time totally exhilarating and making you feel very live, and it's very exciting to be in the room. However, I mean, I'm using words to try and put across a feeling, which is quite difficult because the feelings are quite subjective. And you know, I can describe it as being soft and light but powerful. But ultimately, it's a feeling that you have to feel for yourself, and that feeling changes and refines as your practice in Qigong changes and refines. So it changes year on year, and your understanding of it deepens. So it's quite fascinating.
So if someone came along to a class, what could they expect to kind of, well, what could they expect?
The unexpected. The classes that we run aren't necessarily like a set class that you would do with a set routine of exercises each week. There is a general range of exercises that we cover, and that would be ranging from the Daoist Yoga to the deep breathing to the Tai Chi and the Qigong exercises. There would be some meditation and also some self-defense, some soft self-defense, the Kung Fu side of things.
That's all within one class?
That's all within one class. And you might not know necessarily what you're doing, but the whole of that package is Lishi. And you might think, well, I only want to come do the self-defense bit, or I only want to come do the Tai Chi bit, but actually they all complement each other. It's quite intrinsic to what we do. So you might get someone that's, let's say, done a harder style of martial arts for many, many, many years, and then after sort of a decade of doing that martial art, think, actually, I quite need to learn to soften and to use my energy. But we just chuck it in right from the beginning, and you get to experience all of that and have a better, well-rounded sort of experience of the arts and of the different energies, and you get a more rounded individual, hopefully.
It sounds very, well, it sounds fantastic. It sounds very in-depth, and I know you've spoken about that you teach classes in Leeds, and you also have an online video course on Udemy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious as to, you know, is it really possible to learn Qigong and Tai Chi and self-defense from a video?
Well, how my teacher describes it is that the arts is like a big lake, and your experience of the arts can vary. So you can just have a very, very light experience, and you could just be on the edge of that layer. You might just dip your toe in, and that would be something like having a video course. But if you want to deepen your understanding, and you really want to get some more not, well, I'm trying to think of the words, but not such a superficial light touch experience with the arts, and you have to really find a teacher. You really have to go to a class and get that sort of one-on-one instruction with someone that's more experienced, that's teaching what you want to learn, and that really is quite essential.
Okay, so it's kind of like you could learn the moves or the theory from a video, but there's something more in depth that you have to have someone observing you, I guess. And
yeah, but it's also, let's say, it's this that when we talk about feelings, it's when you come into the room, hopefully there's a feel to the classes, there's a feel to all the practitioners, and that feeling is what we describe as being passed on through transmission. So it's another way of describing it is it's an embodied learnings knowledge system, and you have to. It was practice way before a written system was ever invented, before books, and so it was practiced and passed down generation to generation through touch, and through the transmission from teacher to student. So if you are more serious about getting in touch with the kind of depths of these arts, then you can learn the basic movements without a teacher, but really you need to get a feel of the kind of layers involved, and the refinements in the exercises.
I don't know why, but I'm thinking of surfing, and I've got this idea of like, it's one thing to watch a video of how to surf, or even to be on the beach and practice jumping onto your surfboard on the beach, and you could stand there and think, oh, I'm surfing, but it's quite a different thing when you're in the waves.
Absolutely. We describe this as a doing art. It's very, very much a practical doing art. So you can theorize and you can read books, and that all helps with the knowledge of what to do. But you actually have to, when you come to a class, you've got to practice, and within the practice comes the understanding, and within the practice comes the depth of learning and the kind of embodied realizations that come from that. So that in terms of what we do, it's fundamental that you do it, basically, rather than talk about it.
Yeah, from you talking now, I'm getting a sense that there's a kind of a vibe to this Lishi stuff. You were saying that when you come into the room, it should feel a certain way, and certainly from your voice and stuff, there's a certain kind of feeling and vibe to you, and that's nice. It feels different, and it feels nice to think that there can be space within the world where, because what you said is this is a very ancient practice, where kind of this tradition is kept alive, or
yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a family system that's been passed on through the generations, but it has also got influences from the temples of China, and very much part of what we do can be described as being a community temple. When you enter a temple, you come into a space of serenity, of quiescence, of calmness, that takes you away from sort of the kind of stresses of your life and the hustle and bustle, and it allows you to connect with certain things in yourself, and hopefully coming to the classes you get a sense of that, and you leave all that kind of I was going to say bullshit outside, and you come in and you come in to practice, and you enter a space where everyone's doing the same, and for me it's a palpable feeling, and that feeling is essentially that feeling that's been transmitted through generations over time, and that feeling doesn't change, which is the beautiful thing about that, because we're talking about energy basically.
Yeah, sounds really wonderful. Have you ever been to temples?
Yes. I go to China each year, and I go with my master, and we go each year and we visit. It's like a kind of study tour, I suppose. So we take students and we exchange with other Tai Chi, Wushu kind of practitioners. We exchange with other Daoists, other traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, and we just sort of...
I just pick up that word exchange. I don't really know what do you mean you exchange?
Business cards, no. So the way is that we learn from each other. So in China, the verb that you use for doing any of these arts, Tai Chi, Kung Fu, Qigong, whatever, is to play, and that's really crucial, because it's the attitude that you're enjoying it, you do it with joy, and you're playing. And so when you work with another practitioner, you're playing, you're exchanging in, you're learning from each other, and there's a sort of give and take and mutual kind of harmony to kind of the exchange. If you get what I'm saying.
I get a real sense of kind of equality, rather than there being like, I don't know, like a lecturer telling someone how to do, or one person telling another person what to do. It's, as you say, it's an exchange. It's a giving and a learning from.
Even if let's say the person is an expert, they're often because as I was describing before, it's so important to touch and to feel. They'll come round and they'll adjust you and work with you, and that's priceless. And so there's that interplay with what they might do, a different system, or they might come from a different background or practice, but that doesn't matter. That informs what they do, and we inform what they do, and vice versa.
So presumably you've done different sorts of Tai Chi.
Yep. There's Tai Chi.
Because we've got a question here, which is which Tai Chi should I learn? I guess which is the best one? Which is
the best one? Lishi is the best one. No, I'm joking. There's no best one. You don't have a best system. You just have you have individuals that are outstanding, that are extraordinary, and they make that system work. And they maximize what it was designed to do. So in Tai Chi, for example, there are, let's say, 5 main systems that most people have heard of, like Yang or Chun or Sun, but really there are actually thousands of systems of Tai Chi that exist, that people practice day in, day out. But there are sort of some major ones that are very, very popular currently in today.
Okay, so for someone who's thinking of starting something like this, how do they decide which one to learn?
I'd just say let the Dao decide. I didn't set out to do Lishi, but it was something like that I like the look of, I like the sound of, and I just went along to the class. But some people might want something.
So I guess if someone's listening to this podcast, then this has put this in front of them, and they should look into it.
Yeah, if it resonates with you. What we do that's different, I would say, is that it's the heritage of what we do is Daoist. Not just the heritage. Let me just repeat that. So what is different, I'd say, from what we do is it is a Daoist practice of Tai Chi. So the Daoism is very much fundamental, intrinsic to our practice.
Okay. So other Tai Chi schools might not have that Daoism within it. What is that? What does that mean?
What is it? So Daoism is a science, but also a philosophy that was created in China, but it's not just for the Chinese, basically. And it was people that observed nature thousands of years ago and the principles of nature, and they put together systems to work with that energy in nature. So Daoists, for example, invented things like acupuncture, which you might have heard of, or feng shui, which is geomancy, or Chinese herbal therapy. Concepts like yin and yang, so they were all discovered by Daoists. And so what we do in Lishi not just comes from, but is a Daoist practice. Initially, when students come in, they just wear t-shirts. So we have t-shirts for different arts. You have the yin arts, where students wear a blue t-shirt, and that signifies water, the calming effects of water, and there's certain exercises that we only do in the yin arts. And then we also have the yang arts, which they wear yellow, which is much more dynamic as a colour. You think of the sun, and you think of the yang energy from the sun, and it's faster, and those are the characteristics of yang energy. And students wear that, and we do the kung fu, the soft style kung fu that we do. As people progress and they get more of the Daoism in terms of what they're doing and the Daoist practice, then we wear other jackets as well.
So do you have like black belts? Because
yes and no. So we have gradings, and over the years you can work towards a black jacket. That's what we call, or a black sash. But also teachers are it's not something that's very obvious. So we don't kind of parade that around, and people know their own levels in what we do, because the grading is an indicator of your progression within the arts and what you need to do for yourself. It's not a sort of like hoop jumping exercise, let's say, and I've done that grading and I'm going to do that.
So is it more about kind of a personal journey rather than
Absolutely.
a kind of a comparison or a better than other people?
Absolutely. It's all about the individual and your individual journey through the arts, your individual journey with connecting to Daoism and deepening your understanding of the Dao.
And you mentioned that you've been to temples before in China, and I'm just wondering, because people listening to this may well be in the UK. Is there are there any kind of Daoist? I mean, obviously they can come to a Lishi class and learn about this stuff, but are there any Daoist temples in the UK?
Well, funny you should say that, because we are setting up a temple in Leeds called the Sea Cloud Temple, and it's in collaboration with the White Cloud Temple in Beijing, which is the foremost Daoist temple for the northern school of Daoism, which is the Quanzheng Daoism, the complete reality Daoism, and we're honoured to be setting that up, and it will be hopefully a small seed that will grow into something bigger as more and more people find out about it. In the long run, if that's what you want, if you want to get a job, then yeah, because what the classes are for, they're to help you create and harness more energy into your life, basically, so that you can direct your life in any direction that you want. If that is to get a job, that's great. If that's not to get a job, that's great as well. You know, we try to encourage the philosophy of not having kind of failures or success, or having that sort of competitive, you know, there's only one route to success. In Daoism, that doesn't really exist. You just got to learn to be happy.
So we've not mentioned your book. The title sounds fascinating. Way Out, A Daoist Path to a Fearless Life.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the book for? Who should read it? What's in it?
Well, from teaching and around the world and in my classes in Leeds, I often get people who come to the class and they're feeling stressed and anxious. They kind of don't quite fit with what's going on in society, so they feel a little bit out of place, and they don't really feel like there's what's offered to them conventionally is something that resonates or strikes a chord with them. So we wanted to write the book to bring some of the principles and the concepts in Daoism to help people like that to basically find a natural way that gels with them, and that allows them to live a life that's happy and fearless.
Cool, fantastic. And where can people get that if they wanted it?
The book's available on Amazon, and there's also, I think, a Kindle version as well.
So are you the only person that does this?
Oh, what? No. That'd be really boring if it's just me in the room. There's a community, a Lishi community of practitioners, of students, of coaches of Lishi throughout the country and throughout Europe, and people with a great skill level, people who've devoted their lives for decades, 10, 20 years practicing Lishi, but also students that have just come into it who have an interest in Daoism, that want to find out more, and they've just, everyone's just starting their journey basically, but there's a big community of people doing this around the world.
Okay, so you're based in Leeds, but throughout the UK, there's other teachers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where can people
access this? Yeah. Well, the centre of Lishi is in Leeds, of all places. Lishi coaches all over the country. So we've got classes in Edinburgh and Glasgow, Newcastle, coming down to Leeds, Sheffield, Manchester, Leicester, York, all the way down to London. You like the sound of doing some exercise that has a spiritual element, that has a well-being element for your mind, then come along to the classes, because they make you feel absolutely wonderful and alive and full of beans.
How can people find out more about you, what you do, your classes, how to kind of connect with you? And
well, you can just go on lishi.org/Leeds, and there'll be a list of all the classes that are available. So if you're interested in finding out more about the classes, you can follow me on social media or as Lishi Leeds on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks very much for coming in today. Obviously,
Thank you very much for asking me.
You've got all of these different things going on, books, podcasts, videos. I've been on YouTube. You've got lots of videos there. They're worth having a look at. And then you've got all the classes that you run, and this great sounding project offering free classes for young people in Leeds who are maybe suffering from anxiety or depression or stress. That's fantastic. And then you've got this new project starting the first Daoist temple in the UK.
Absolutely.
In partnership with the White Cloud Temple in Beijing. That's really quite something. So thanks very much for sparing the time to come in and talk with us all today.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.